The film begins with a beautiful but terrifying place with darkness everywhere. Meanwhile, a lady is shown standing and a place in a room with being scared, and someone arrives in the room to feed her. The lady runs from there as the door opens, but everyone discovered that's why she couldn't run. She ties an iron wire around her neck, holds the statue for heavy weight, and the next moment she ends her while jumping. Before dying, she said, "Everything is ending with me, so you can't get anyone from my generation." The story is shown many years later, and there is a girl named Evie who is an artist and also works very hard. Right now, she is doing a job as a waitress. She has good friends and they are doing hard work for their future. Her friends gives her a DNA test with which she can find every who is their family member. This job is done by a company for the people who don't have anyone in this world. The company used to find out the relative of a person while taking his DNA. Returning home, Evie starts making mud pots. As she likes this, but she wasn't attentive towards it. She was missing her parents while seeing their pictures and was listening to their voice message again and again. Because her parents died many years ago and she was alone in this world, so she decided to give the DNA. While hoping to find someone in this world and the company will find him or her. The next day, she gives her DNA sample and the result came after a while. She discovers her family was from England and the company has found her cousin who was in England at that time. Evie, being surprised to know this, and even she tells her friend about it, and her cousin also gets this message that he has a cousin named Evie. He messages her and calls her for a coffee. Evie becomes happy to see this because she was alone in this world. And she was feeling lonely, but her friend makes her understand not to believe anyone like this. I think this DNA company is also a fraud. Maybe they will trap you and will take some benefit from you, but Evie ignores her. After a few days, Evie meets her cousin at a hotel and he becomes very happy to meet her and behaves nicely. Seeing it, Evie becomes happy. Later, he tells her that their family is huge and rich. They become happy after knowing about you. There is a wedding of our cousin after a few days and you have to attend it. Everyone will be delighted to see you because they are eager to meet you. Evie says, "I would like to come, but I can't because I don't have much money." But he says, "Don't worry, we will bear all your expenses and this will be a gift from your family." She agrees and decides to go to England and reaches there after a few days. Her cousin comes to receive her at the airport and meets her nicely. Then he takes her to a lavish palace, and seeing it, Evie becomes astonished. Actually, the family of Evie's cousins lives here because they work here for the owner. The wedding preparations of their cousin was going on, so there was some waitresses. Evie collides with the waitresses. She was having glasses in her hand and due to it they fell, but Evie helps her. Meanwhile, the house servant arises and starts misbehaving with her, but she says, "Don't you know how to talk? I'm a guest here." Meanwhile, a boy arrives and apologizes to Evie for the servant's behavior. Meanwhile, Evie's cousin arises and introduces them to her. She discovers that this boy is no other than the house owner named Walter, and Evie's cousin family works for him. Here, Walter's behavior was also very good to Evie. She becomes happy with it and also admires this place. Later, the servant takes Evie's luggage inside the palace. The palace is shown lovely even from inside. Evie is shown the whole palace and we discover it is the same place in which that lady ended her life. Now Evie is given a room and even a servant who was nice and now will work for her. Evie was surprised to see this as she was getting a lot of respect here. The servant tells her the rules to live here, that she don't have to come outside and just need to ring the bell if you want anything. She will come. You are not allowed to go to the library because some task is going on and you have to sleep early at night. Evie removes the curtain and sees the rods behind them and asks, being surprised, what's the purpose of these rods? The servant says the dangerous birds often come that can harm us and the rods are for our safety. She doesn't say anything because she feels maybe she's saying truth. At night, Evie video calls her friend. She tells her everything about here and she's happy here. She says, I wasn't expecting everything to be so good here. The people, palace, and their nature, everything is so good. After a while, Walter comes to her door and says, I was here to see you, that you came in this room. I apologizes one more on the behalf of my servant. He appears to like Evie. After it, she goes for a walk and sees an old building near the palace. Seeing it, she stops because she sees a terrible thing near the building. At night, she sees a nightmare and awakes immediately. She feels thirsty, so she comes out of her room to drink water. She comes and sees that many servants have gathered and are they are sending to clean the room. Evie feels strange to see this, but then her servant arrives who asks her to go back to her room. She asks her to go and sleep as coming out isn't good for her. Evie leaves, but the girl is shown who went to clean up the library. And suddenly a thing attacks her from the roof and takes her with him. In the morning, Evie was called downstairs as her family gathered to welcome her. She returns to her room and finds her dressed with a note. It was sent by Walter for the party in the evening. Meanwhile, the servant is shown sending two girls in library to bring beer. There was an attack on them and someone has taken them with it. Likewise, the waitresses were disappearing one by one. Evie wasn't aware that there will be something strange or dangerous. At night, she gets ready nicely after wearing the dress given by Walter and comes to the party. Here she meets two girls. One of them was clever and doesn't like Evie, but other was innocent and happy on Evie's arrival. Evie was surprised because she hasn't seen the bride yet. They have made their own rules. Walter arrives and moves to Evie. He starts dancing with her and Evie feels good because among so many girls, Walter has chosen her to dance. After it, they go for a walk and talk to each other. Evie was talking about the building that scared her yesterday. She tells her this was used to keep things in the old era and takes her to another palace where they talk a lot. Evie was sleeping in her room and gets scared of something and hides under the bed immediately. And she was shouting as well. Hearing her voice, Walter comes to her, handles her while checking the room. But there was nothing, and he makes her understand in the end that she may have seen a nightmare because there is nothing. Evie was considering herself safe with Walter, that's why she asked him to stay in her room until she sleeps. He agrees, and in the morning, Evie awakes and finds a letter by Walter near her. I am leaving, but I didn't awake you, just not to disturb you, was written on it. The girl who met Evie in the party come and take Evie with them to get her ready. Meanwhile, Evie's finger becomes injured as her nails were being cut and starts to bleed. The girl couldn't stop herself by seeing the blood and starts sucking her blood. Evie feels weird, so she leaves in anger. Evie starts feeling that the place here is strange and people are also strange. She decides to go to the place where she wasn't allowed, means in the library. She moves inside and sees her details on the table that was taken by Walter. She feels bad seeing this and leaves from there. She starts packing her luggage. Meanwhile, Walter comes to her and makes her understand while apologizing that I have taken out your details because I care for my life and money. I just want to know if you are coming here being greedy for money. I had to do this because I was told of your arrival. As I want to know you in real and you are suspecting me. Now again, Evie was trapped because she also had started liking Walter. At night, a lavish dinner was arranged and everyone was so nicely dressed. Evie was also given a lovely dress. She comes by wearing and sits near Walter. Walter stands up and says, "Thank you, everyone. You are here with me for a long time and serving me." During this, he declares that he will marry Evie. But Evie feels weird, and now the things and Walter talks become strange. Her servant fills a pot with the blood while cutting the waitress' neck, and Evie gets shocked to see this and gets scared. Walter says, "You are serving me from centuries and have to give me 3 wives, and I have 2 of them. The third will be Evie." As we all know, the number 3 is special and powerful, and with it, I will be more powerful. And in return, you people will get money, fame, and power, and many other things beside this. Abby understands everything, but now it was too late. Actually, Walter was a vampire. Now, because he's immortal, that's why he's alive for centuries, and they are all serving him. Walter's first wife was a clever girl, and the innocent one was his second wife. They were living with Walter for years, and they were also vampires. His third wife was Evie's grandmother, who ended herself at the start of the movie, and now Walter cannot marry ordinary people. He wants a girl with pure blood to get married. Her grandmother's blood was pure, so he married Evie. She ended herself. Now he wanted to marry to Evie as she was special because of the blood of her grandmother. Evie tries to escape but couldn't, and Walter says, "Try to understand and think what I can give you. You will be immortal like me and will never die. Even you will have the power of 100 men and you will never get sick, and you will have a luxurious life like money and power." Well, now Abby was locked in the basement and Walter's wife come with her. Only Walter and his wives were vampires and others were human. They served them like they bring blood for them. As blood is vampire's food, the vampire wives make Abby understand that they have also gone through all this. But once Walter will give you his blood to drink and you will feel powerful, you will be happy and you will forget about your previous life. Then you will be used to that of the vampire's life with the passage of time. But Evie wasn't affected by all this because she doesn't want to be a killer or a devil, and she starts weeping. After it, they leave Evie alive because soon Walter and Evie will get married. Now the servant of Evie was a good-hearted lady, so she took pity on her. And she doesn't want her to be a prey of this cruelty, so she helps her to escape from there. Getting a high chance, Evie runs from there, but everyone discovers that Evie escaped and the servant helped her. Getting the right, many people were sent behind her, but she hides in the building. The servant has ended that servant and brings her body to the building. Evie panics to see this and runs from there. The servant moves behind her, but she locks herself in the building and runs from there. She reaches a village in a house and there was an old couple, so she asks them for help. "Please call the police as there are some people behind me and they want to end me." The old couple let her in the house. Now the lady calls, but not the police but Walter, because they were also Walter's servants. Evie also understands now, but it was too late. They offer tea to Evie, but she throws it to the old man. Meanwhile, the old lady attacks her while throwing something and she gets faint. She awakes and was lying on the sofa. And there was Walter in front of her, telling her the benefits of being a vampire and provoking her to marry. These are the girls nearby whose blood he was sucking. He somehow agrees her to marry, and now at the time of marriage, Walter gives Evie his hand to suck blood and Evie sucks it. Now, like her, Walter has to suck her blood, so his third marriage proceeds will be completed and he will become powerful. Evie becomes powerful as she sucked his blood, but she doesn't let him suck her blood but set that place on fire. Seeing this, the humans get panicked and run from there. Walter moves to stop Evie, but she stabs a thick weapon picked from the fire in his chest. He was getting weak with it, and after it, Evie also runs from there. But Walter's clever wife starts fighting with her and says, "Foolish girl, what do you think? You will break the rules of 1,000 years old? This is your misunderstanding. You can't end Walter because we will do each possible try to save him because we will die with him as well." She again fights with her and was about to end Evie, but then Walter's innocent wife arrives. Now, because she was fed up of devilish lives, she also attacks Walter's first wife. They fight with each other, and in the end, they were ended weirdly. After it, Walter, whose condition wasn't well, holds Evie, holding her, and sucks her blood. He tries to make her his wife, but Evie cuts his hand, due to which he leaves her. Later, she throws him into the fire, but because he was weak, he dies immediately. Then she comes out after setting that place on fire. She escapes from this town with a girl who survived. Evie is shown a vampire after 2 weeks. She is powerful as she has sucked Walter's blood. She was with his friends and they were finding her fake cousin because Evie wanted to take revenge on him. Everything happened because of him. Here this movie ends.